faithfully conveying values, interpreting great books worldwide. Hello, this is Sally Book Talk. Today, I'm interpreting the book Underground City, a story about ordinary people in India. They live in Mumbai, in a slum called Anawadi, poor but not hopeless. India's rapidly growing economy has brought opportunities and hope to these ordinary folks, but a bizarre murder that happened here uncovered life's harsh truth. This slum in India's largest city is like an underground city, where justice can be bought and sold, and life is as worthless as trash. Corruption and injustice overshadow hope. Is there any chance for people in the slum to escape? The author is Catherine Boo, a Pulitzer Prize-winning American journalist and writer.
For 20 years, she's focused on poverty topics, winning major awards like the MacArthur Genius Grant and Pulitzer Prize.
Since 2017, Catherine spent 3 years deeply immersed in Anawadi to complete this book, Underground City. The book shows the most authentic slum life and records the entire bizarre murder case. After publication, it was shortlisted for the 2012 New York Times and Washington Post Top 10 Books lists and the 2013 Pulitzer Prize. The Financial Times UK commented that Catherine exquisitely describes the life and death of ordinary people in this modern metropolis. Bill Gates wrote in the preface, "I've visited slums in many cities, and it's really hard to accurately describe to friends and family what a desolate scene it was. And we must soberly realize that this situation could get worse." So, what was this bizarre murder case all about? How do the poor strive to escape the slum, and what does it entail? Turning the slum into a pitch-dark underground city. Now, let's step into the story of Anawadi slum. Anawadi is in Mumbai's western suburbs, India's financial center, just separated from Mumbai International Airport by a boulevard. It was originally snake-infested bushland. In 1991, laborers from southern India came to repair the airport runway and stayed after finishing the work. Now, over 300 rickety houses have been built here, housing more than 3,000 residents. Only 6 people here have steady jobs. Some residents trap rats and frogs to fry for dinner, others sleep on rooftops. But by Indian standards, most have escaped poverty, thanks to Anawadi's location. India's economy has boomed over the past decade, with glass-walled high-rises sprouting near the airport. Anawadi is surrounded by 4 or 5 luxury hotels. The airport and hotels generate massive trash, which residents turned into an industry. At the supply chain's bottom are individual waste pickers, fanning out each morning to scavenge scraps around the airport. Like crumpled cigarette packs, empty bottles fished from sewers. Some even pull knives over a trash bin. The collected waste gets handed to waste traders. These middlemen sort the collected trash, then sell it to small recycling plants kilometers away. The book's protagonist, Abdul Hussain, and his family are the slum's top waste traders. 11 family members. Abdul's parents plus 9 kids, all squeezed into a tin shed. As the eldest, Abdul's age is uncertain, maybe 16, 17, or 19. Small and quiet, he's sorted waste since age 6. His father decided, since the boy wasn't bright, he might as well quit school to earn money at home. By the iron scale, Abdul's a waste expert, tapping scrap metal to identify it by sound, chewing soft plastic to grade it. For hard plastic, he snaps and sniffs it. Fresh scent means good quality. Passers-by call him garbage, but he shrugs it off. The trade feeds his family, lets them save, making them the slum's elite. India's economic boom fueled consumption and construction frenzies. By early 2008, airport waste surged, scrap metal prices soared, and Abdul earned 500 rupees daily, about $10. This income is pretty decent for an Indian manual laborer. An Indian temp worker earns only $2 or $3 a day. Abdul's family spotted a small plot of land in the suburbs, paid a deposit, dreaming of building their own house soon, escaping the slum, and living a more respectable life. Oh. But a self-immolation incident on July 17, 2008, completely shattered this family's dream. The person who self-immolated was named Fatima, living next door to Abdul's family. She was around 35, with one leg shortened due to a congenital disability, so people called her one-legged woman. Since childhood, one-legged woman wasn't well liked by family and neighbors, not just because of her leg issue, an odd way of walking. Later, she married an old poor man, had 3 daughters, but often dressed flashily to have affairs. This earned her scorn from others, making one-legged woman a bit extreme. She was sensitive and insecure, yet irritable and quick-tempered, often flying into rages, cursing people, and swinging her cane at neighbors who upset her. Originally, one-legged woman and Abdul's family had a decent relationship. Occasionally, she'd share heartfelt words with Abdul's mother, Zehornisa. But in July 2008, when Abdul's family started renovating their house, the relationship between the two families changed. The renovation wasn't massive. The main goal was adding a small window to vent kitchen fumes and laying floor tiles to keep the home cleaner. Plus, it could bring extra benefits. And this ties into the land ownership background in Anawati. And the land in Anawati actually belongs to the airport. The houses here are illegal structures and could be demolished anytime. Residents believe that if a house is sturdier and harder for bulldozers to flatten, authorities are more likely to recognize the family's land ownership. So, Anawati residents who can afford it fix up their homes, but Abdul sees this as unwise because it's like publicly flaunting wealth, which invites jealousy. So, sure enough, one-legged woman was the first to get upset. Their houses are separated only by a thin, broken wall. One-legged woman yelled that the renovation noise was too loud, and at the slightest disagreement, she started shoving and arguing with Abdul's mother, Zehurunisa. After the quarrel, one-legged woman ran to the police station, falsely claiming she was violently attacked. The police came and took Zehurunisa away, so the two families quarreled again. After that, they dispersed and went home to cook dinner. Not long after, one-legged woman's 8-year-old daughter discovered her mother had locked herself in the house to self-immolate. Through the window, the little girl saw her mother pouring cooking kerosene over her head. Hard-pressed. Oh my God. A few seconds later, with a small boom, the child screamed, "My mom is on fire!" Several neighbors rushed over, broke down the door, and saw one-legged woman struggling on the ground, shouting for help. What is this like, a mom? Her flesh was smoking, her face burned red and black, skin peeling off in chunks. A neighbor at the scene concluded that one-legged woman was trying to put on a show to gain sympathy, but accidentally burned herself so badly. One-legged woman was taken to the hospital by her husband. The incident was clear, and the drama should have ended there. However, in Anawati, this underground city, fairness and justice are like garbage. They can be bought and sold at will. With one-legged woman hospitalized, a web woven of jealousy and corruption was cast over Abdul's family. The first to stir trouble was a close friend of one-legged woman. Her husband was also a waste middleman, but Abdul's family took away his business. This friend went to the hospital, urging one-legged woman to frame Abdul's family. So one-legged woman lied to the police, saying that Abdul's family set the fire. Based on this testimony, Abdul and his father were detained by the police that very night. Actually, the day after the self-immolation, the police learned from multiple witnesses that the accusation was false. But they weren't planning to let Abdul and his father go easily. If they released them, how would the police get any benefits? To make the charge against Abdul's family stick, the police needed a more plausible victim statement that Abdul's family incited one-legged woman to self-immolate. And because in India, inciting someone to suicide is a serious crime. This strict suicide clause was originally established by the British to end the custom in India, where widows were encouraged to commit sati to save expenses.
If this charge is proven, Abdul's family could face 10 years or even longer in prison.
So they sent a female officer named Punwati to the hospital. This female officer was beautiful and plump, wearing designer gold-rimmed glasses. Under her gentle persuasion, one-legged woman provided a new testimony. She admitted to self-immolation, but claimed it was because Abdul's family insulted her.
They also beat her and threatened to break her good leg.
Her testimony concluded, "With my left leg crippled, I couldn't fight back. In a rage, I poured all the kerosene in the house on myself and set myself on fire." Meanwhile, at the police station, Abdul and his father were whipped by officers. Beatings instill fear and work well for extortion.
No matter how Abdul pleaded, the police refused to believe him.
As he lay on the table taking the blows, his mother Zeheranisa heard his constant wails from the nearby waiting room. Since her husband and son were taken, she couldn't sleep at night and repeated the story obsessively by day, like Shanglin's wife. During Abdul and his father's detention, money-demanding people came in waves. One cop promised payment would prevent severe beatings. The perjuring officer Punwati shrugged. "Good testimony or bad, it's in your hands. Decide fast." But before Zeheranisa decided, one-legged woman died.
At admission, her medical record showed 35% burns. Not critical, but hospital hygiene was terrible and doctors were negligent.
She lay on urine-soaked mattresses with reused, yellowed bandages and non-disposable needles. On the fifth morning, she died from infection. Her death escalated everything.
To dodge blame, the hospital altered records from 35% to 95% burns, making her death seem inevitable on arrival.
Abdul, his father, and sister were jailed for allegedly beating one-legged woman, awaiting trial. The trial only began next March. Meanwhile, Zeheranisa sold their garbage shack, borrowed money for a lawyer, and bought a fake ID for Abdul. It proved he was 16 during the incident, so he could leave prison for juvenile court later. In late July 2009, the case finally ended. The judge declared Abdul's family innocent, an unsurprising outcome given the many eyewitnesses. Ironically, the key evidence that closed the case came from the instigation. One-legged woman's close friend who urged her to lie. In court, this friend claimed she was present during the quarrel and witnessed the victim being bullied firsthand. But under the lawyer's cross-examination, her lies were gradually exposed. She admitted her home wasn't in the same alley as the quarrel site. There was distance between them. When the argument happened, she was home chopping vegetables for dinner. The lawyer seized this inconsistency and immediately asked, "Since you were cooking at home, how could you possibly have seen everything? You claimed to have witnessed the quarrel. That wasn't true." "You're lying!" The friend realized she'd slipped up and tried to argue, but the judge had heard enough. He immediately ordered the stenographer to note the witness admitted lying and pointed to the door for her to leave. "What?" End quote. End quote. The witness confessed. The dust settled, and the court cleared Abdul's family. But the lengthy lawsuit plunged them back into destitution. The case dragged on for a year. During that time, constant police extortion left the family no energy to properly run their business. Most of their garbage trade was snatched away by other waste dealers in the slum. By the trial's end, they were reduced to barely surviving, and their dream of escaping the slum vanished. All this was foreseen by a woman named Asha, who also lived in Anawati, a local power broker in the slum. She said Zeheranisa didn't grasp the basics. Paying the police early would have cost less. Like Abdul's family, Asha came from poverty, with only 7 years of schooling, but she was born sharp-tongued and shrewd. Though 39, her eyes still sparkled. But Asha scorned earning through hard labor like Abdul's family. She aimed to enter politics, starting as slum leader. This unofficial position involved being selected by local politicians and police to manage the slum. Then she'd become a municipal representative, a truly respected woman. On one front, she worked tirelessly assisting her area's municipal rep with political tasks, canvassing votes and handling local affairs. She didn't care about right or wrong. As long as the municipal rep needed it, she'd do it eagerly. Her frequent political work revealed money-making opportunities. For example, the government launched a poverty program, letting banks offer low-interest loans to poor entrepreneurs, stimulating local manufacturing, to solve unemployment.
Government officials, bank managers, and slum reps like Asha colluded to profit.
First, Asha recruited reliable poor people to create shell companies for loans. Officials would pretend to certify them as beneficial for local jobs. Finally, the bank manager would approve it too. This let officials, bank managers, and Asha take cuts from the loans. While currying favor with politicians, Asha also worked the slum to build her support base. She eagerly mediated neighbors' disputes, like helping a stripper with family conflicts or finding temp jobs for those in need, all while lining her own pockets. For instance, she answered a government call by organizing a women's mutual aid group, meant to pool savings for low-interest loans. But under Asha, it became a loan sharking operation, lending at high interest to poor, excluded women, skimming profits. Asha profited most, buying a gold necklace and TV, the first in Anawati. When the self-immolation happened, Asha saw a chance. She told Renisa to settle privately, bribe cops 1,000 plus, pay off one-legged woman's family to minimize fallout, while pocketing a commission herself. To become slum leader, Asha stayed frantically busy. Endless calls, neighbor meetings, shadowing the municipal rep. But she forgot her path was built on corruption. This foundation is like a sandcastle, collapsing at any moment. In 2009, her political backer, the municipal representative, got into trouble and was removed from office. Asha lost her support in politics. Then, slum residents saw her true face of profiting off neighbors and began to despise her. Thus, Asha's dream of becoming slum leader shattered, let alone escaping to become a political powerhouse. The strong-willed Asha could only wrap herself in a blanket at home, secretly crying, silently reciting a local poem. What you don't want is always with you. What you want never is. This poem mirrors Asha's life and Abdul's families and many slum dwellers. Truthfully, everyone in Anawati once had dreams, big or small, hoping for a life-changing chance to escape the slum. But in a society rife with corruption and injustice, dreams shattered one by one against harsh reality. Like Abdul's neighbor boy who dreamed of adoption by a kind family, no savior came, forcing him into theft. Slum girl, Mina, dreamed of being with her love, but was forced into marriage by her family. In despair, the village girl drank rat poison and died. And Asha's daughter, Manju, was the slum's first female college grad. But higher education couldn't free her. After graduation, Manju wanted to teach, but knew landing a public school job required bribing officials.
So she planned insurance work, selling to the rich to earn money and meet elites, hoping to marry up.
But entering insurance, she found her ideal impossible. Raised in the slum, Manju knew no one who could afford insurance, let alone access high society. All for nothing. To this, Anawati's people seemed numb, accepting this unchangeable reality, accepting their humiliating lives. Abdul concluded, this too is a life. Even those living like dogs have a life, one shackled by fate at birth. What trapped them in this dark underground city? Where exactly did Anawati go wrong? I'll now combine external research reports to explore answers from India's economic environment and government management perspectives. Economically, India's rapid growth drew masses to cities, but urban unpreparedness created Anawati's core issues. Since the 1990s, India's boom created opportunities in cities like Mumbai, attracting rural poor seeking better lives. But cities couldn't handle the influx. Basic needs like water, sanitation, education, and justice systems collapsed, creating slums like disease-ridden Anavati. And with literacy under 80%, lower for women, this population lacked job market competitiveness. So, most rural migrants, like Abdul's family, ended up in slums, scavenging trash or doing temp work. Globalization's economic volatility worsened Anawati's plight. India's 1990s growth tied to globalization, a double-edged sword letting crises spread worldwide. By 2008, the global financial crisis hit India hard. Slums like Anavati felt it deeply. Funding shortages halted nearby construction, reducing temp jobs. The recession crashed the garbage trade too. Prices plummeted. E.g., 1 kilogram plastic bottles dropped from $0.50 to half that.
Worse, November saw terrorists storm Mumbai, occupying luxury hotels, slaughtering staff and tourists, throwing the city into chaos.
That winter, airport lockdowns emptied hotels, scattering tourists, leaving almost no trash to recycle. Global recession and terrorist disruptions made slum life even harder. Getting enough to eat was tough, let alone achieving dreams. After covering economic reasons, let's discuss government management. Overall, India's government is relatively weak in governance. Pervasive corruption, especially petty corruption at grassroots levels, makes urban administration inefficient. The NGO Transparency International released a 2005 report titled India Corruption Study 2005. It revealed massive corruption in public services. Indians bribed 11 departments with 210.68 billion rupees yearly, about $4.06 USD.
That money could feed all of India's poor for a year. The Central Vigilance Commission's 2005 Anti-Corruption Manual stated many poverty policies are crippled by graft.
About 31% of grain for India's poor is diverted to black markets, enriching shopkeepers, politicians, and officials.
Only 15% of anti-poverty funds reach needy hands. 85% gets lost in bureaucracy or corruption, keeping the poor destitute while fattening the corrupt. For example, to modernize Mumbai, authorities plan to raise slums, the Slum-Free Mumbai initiative. Anawadi's airport area became a prime target. The government aimed to demolish dozens of airport-adjacent slums around 2010.
Under the plan, private developers could lease cleared land for commercial projects.
On condition they built apartments for residents, settled since 1995 or 2000. For instance, Abdul's family lived there since 2000, qualifying them
As an apartment-eligible family.
but reality showed few like Abdul qualified. About 2/3 hadn't lived there long enough to get housing benefits. After their shacks were demolished, they could only move to other slums or build new ones. So the government slum clearance plan failed. Slums spread like persistent sores instead of improving. The poor gained little, while the plan became a money-making scheme for the wealthy. That's through slum middlemen like Asha. They bought shacks and forged documents to pose as long-term residents eligible for relocation apartments. More corruption scandals emerged. Crime groups became project partners. Contractors fled with workers' wages. Apartment completion dates vanished. Government weakness bred corruption, which squeezed the poor until slums became inescapable underground cities. In the book's conclusion, author Catherine Boo writes, where corruption rules, exhausted people compete for scraps. In such places, being a good person has become nearly impossible. That concludes our interpretation of Underground City. Reading notes are below the audio. See you tomorrow.